What is going on, everyone? My name is Jonathan, the host here at the Venue RX podcast. And today I am joined by a digital media strategist, someone who is in our industry, has worked in our industry, and now helps other business professionals do a better job at their trades and their crafts. And so I am really excited to have you here today, Julianne Smith. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Big fan.
Going to be so much fun. I mean, we've chatted here a little bit before the recording went on about some of the topics, and I'm excited. I mean, obviously you've got a skill set in a number of different areas, but I want to go back and talk about some of your professional experience that has led you to where you are now and kind of where you're drawing some of this experience from. So can you give us a little bit of a background on you and your experience in our industry?
Sure. So I worked in politics and media before all the way, I always say before garters and babies and the whole thing, and which is about 1% applicable to what I'm doing right now. But I had my daughter and I could not work in politics. And so I stayed home for about a year and I couldn't do it. So at the time I had this little, I don't even know what you want to call it, but a wedding garter business where in 2004, I had made a wedding garter for my friend. And because I was a bridesmaid in her wedding and it was something she really wanted, and I was in charge of finding her a garter and I couldn't find her one. So I made it myself. And then I was like, I can't be the only one that had such a hard time. And so I made the garter for her. And then I was like, I can't be the only one. So I ended up sort of selling them here and there. Flash forward, when I stayed home with my daughter for about a year, I was like, I'm going to do this garter business or I'm going to just give it up because it's just lingering out there. So I said, I'm going to give it a year. And if I get bored or I can't do it, or the minute this becomes unfun, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And that was in 2008. So I'm still doing it. I definitely chalk it up to and this is kind of what I do in my business too. It's like that afraid to fail, but I always give myself that exit strategy. I give it 1 year. I'm going to not be afraid to fail for 1 year. And then if it's not working, I'm out, or I'm going to change, or I'm going to switch. And that's sort of how I approach a lot of things in my business, whether it's getting on Instagram or getting on Pinterest or Twitter back in 2009, it's I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to be afraid to say no if it's not working.
That sounds like it really lends itself to what we're going to be talking about today and just kind of the balance. Because when you think about owning...
Do you see that? Do you see how I did that little
I like it. That was impressive.
Lead in there.
That was impressive. It's very, very good. I'm going to start taking notes. I think it's cool, though, because you took something that is very big and scary. So many people dream about owning their own business, or, they get inspiration for it, but they don't really know where to start. And for you, it sounds like you really said, okay, I'm going to condense it down to a year. I'm going to focus for a year. I'm going to, be passionate about this. I'm going to put, the effort and attention into this, but I'm just going to look at it in a year and kind of take it in those bite-sized chunks. And that's less scary. It doesn't feel like such a massive thing. You have the exit strategy, to your point. So I like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like forever.
Yeah.
And I have a
bunch of clients, and I was just talking with one of them this morning, and I was like, listen, if this doesn't work or you need to add more, we'll do that, but let's start with this for now. And that ability to not only get into something, but also have the confidence to get out of something, or to know that it's not forever. And I think sometimes the decisions, especially when you're owning your own business or you're deciding to start one, or you're taking on these massive changes, it can feel so forever.
Yeah.
And it's, as we've all seen, things are not forever. I mean, Things are changing constantly. And even if you're an expert in something, what even is that, right? A lot of these platforms that we're probably going to talk about today have been around for a hot minute. How can you be an expert in something that wasn't here a year ago or 2 years ago or what have you? And so yeah, it's not only the fear of failure of getting in, but it's also that don't be afraid to like switch it up if it's not working.
Totally. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, but he's one of my favorite marketers, and obviously has a lot of good stuff to say about a variety of topics. But one of the things that he says is, changing your mind is a superpower.
Totally.
And I really like that. And actually, someone who we were also talking about before the show started, Kristen Binford, who we definitely have to have you meet now because of just what you said. Also,
you just called her out.
I did, Kristen. I know you're probably going to hear this, and so yeah, you're gonna have to meet Julie. But she also says like the speed of decision making. Like if you're here and then you have a competitor who's here and they're kind of afraid to make decisions because each decision feels so massive, and so they're making these slow decisions, and maybe each decision is the right decision, but she's making 10 times the decisions, and then when she needs to, pivoting back and then going forward, the business is going to grow better and faster, and she's going to have these iterations, but she's been making the decisions, and sometimes it's not making the right decision, it's making a decision and the best decision at the time.
Yeah,
I mean, I came from the world of politics, and my background is really in that crisis communication, and so a lot of it was just like there was no time to make a decision, right? You do, and you just react, and that has really trained me for a lot of the decision making. And it's funny because that same sort of like speed and pace, and my friends always joke, you bring up Gary Vee, they're like, he got the hustle from you. Cause I literally, that's how I am. I'm like a total hustler. But at the same, and I'm learning, I'm, working on it. But at the same time, in that first year of my business, I brought the same like hustle from like politics and media to the wedding world, which, oh, by the way, turns out is way different because everything's beautiful and pretty and it's like a lot easier to sell. And when you bring this like aggressive type of, like marketing strategy, like push to like, it's like a lot easier to sell because everything's pretty and nothing's controversial when it comes to weddings. And so I had a lot of success really early on by just pushing. So that's how I was able to kind of bring it all together.
This is funny. We're going to have to I want to focus on digital media strategy and kind of some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, but that opens up a whole nother topic that I'm curious. I think you're the right person to talk to, which is just like looking at the wedding industry as a whole. And I've had so many guests on this show who have backgrounds, corporate backgrounds, who have come from Wall Street or have come from, ad agencies or whatever backgrounds they come from. But they come from a very, very kind of corporate, professional background. Then they get into the wedding industry, and the wedding and events industry, like you said, it's a little bit lower pressure, and there's a lot of, it's just a different speed. And so when you bring that intensity, like you said, you can be successful pretty quickly. But I wonder if the industry as a whole is soft. And that could sound harsh, possibly. And for any of my listeners out there that are like, okay, we hate this guy, shut it off. But like the industry maybe is soft from the perspective of, in other industries, there's massive amounts of pressure. There is, massive budgets. There's a lot at stake. Obviously, for this industry, we're planning people's special day, and there is a lot of pressure in those specific moments, but it's definitely a different type of pressure. There's different things on the line, and so it can be easier to be overwhelmed, I guess. Whereas in another industry, you'd be, and that sounds like politics, like all this critical stuff happening, all this pressure, all this like go, make decisions. You don't have time. You don't even have time to feel exhausted. You just have time to like react to what's happening.
Yeah.
And in our industry, we don't have to do that. So
yes and no. Here's like a great example. And I do think though things are changing because the world's changing, but also I think wedding professionals are getting hip to it. And this is like the response time on emails. I mean, there are professionals out there whose whole spiel is like, hey, you should respond to all emails within 24 hours. And to this day, in 2021, I don't even know what we are, good Lord. But again, it's like that advice to me feels like really sort of outdated. But in the wedding space, to try to get some of these wedding professionals to respond to their emails, or respond to their inquiries in a timely manner, or to get the client their products, whether it's products like I make at the Garter Girl, or like a photographer to turn the images around, like just the speed at which we conduct our business. Yeah, we are a bit outdated. We are a bit like soft. And that it's like what used to be sort of like industry standard is like, I think in the wedding industry, like changing a little bit. Is I remember when I first started, it was there were people and they would go out and you would hear advice and it was like, you should respond to all like inquiries within 48 hours. I was like, 48 hours? Are you kidding me? By then I've missed the sale. And like, I'm talking like, if I don't get back to you within the hour, that's a problem. And so I guess,
but that exactly
we are soft. However, I do think it is changing as the expectations from the client are changing, and some people call it boundaries, right? You have one professional, like a friend of mine, she's a planner, and she'll say, listen, I don't have email on my phone. You want to get me game day? You want to get me on a weekend? You got to know my number to call or text me. And by the way, I don't give my clients my phone number. Mm-hmm. Like, but that works for her. She calls that boundary.
Yeah.
Right. Other people. But this is why we all work for ourselves, because we can define those boundaries. We can do those things. And when you're working in a corporation or you're working for somebody else, you don't get to necessarily define those boundaries because the rules are set by your boss.
Yeah. That's a great point. Well, let's pivot into the digital strategy, because I think we're talking
pivot.
The favorite word, right? In this industry that we are in, there are all the platforms, right? There are, the normal ones, the usual ones that everyone knows they should invest time into, like Instagram and Facebook. And there are Google ads, and there are, all sorts of ways to market and advertise your business online. And then there are things, the Pinterests and the Twitters and TikToks and Clubhouse and all of the other places that you can have a presence. And from this whole myriad of different things, it can feel quite overwhelming. And so for you early on, how did you, as you started Garter Girl, as you started your business, how did you start to prioritize where you wanted to show up?
So for me, I was just trying to go where my clients were, or where I thought my clients were. And I think, so there's kind of two sides of the wedding industry, right? There's the service providers, right? Your planners, your photographers, your venues. And then there's the other side, which is me, and I'm the e-commerce side. I'm the product side. I'm the product seller. The thing we have in common, right, is the weddings. We have the same clients. But for me, I've been on this e-commerce side. So I've had to get hip to a lot of this stuff, because things like referrals and networking, that doesn't always work for me, right? Like going to an industry event or going to like a happy hour doesn't really pay off for me the way it would pay off for a service-based business. Now, because of that, I have been really dialed into a lot of these like online, things, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And I've really been digging into like, where are my clients? Where are the people that are going to most likely buy my products, or at least be in the position to even like consider it or be entertained by it, right? And so, yeah, like for me, it's really all about when I get on one of these platforms, I'm like, are my clients there? Are people that are actually going to hire me there? That's my number one question. And if they are, I'll entertain it. And if they're not, then, and this is kind of like my favorite phrase when it comes to all these platforms, it's like, it's not a no, it's a no for right now. And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, I think this was before we even got on, where sometimes there's these decisions in business where you feel like they're so final and they're so forever. And so for me, for example, like when I was entertaining the idea of getting on Clubhouse, I ultimately decided, no, it's not a no, like forever. It's a no for right now. For right now, I don't have the bandwidth. It doesn't fit in with my goals. My clients aren't there. And maybe in a perfect world, if time and money was no object, yeah, sure, I'd be on Clubhouse. Great. Let's go and, network with a bunch of people during the day. But time and money are objects, and it's not a no, it's a no for right now.
So you said you had 3 children now, correct?
I do, yeah.
That's awesome. When you think about juggling family and business and all of these different things, do you feel like it's better for some of these platforms to have a very soft, minimal presence? Like, for example, let's say that you're not going to prioritize Instagram. I'm just going to pick that. But you want to go grab your profile name and just put up a couple pictures and then leave it alone and ignore it? Or are you more of the mindset that someone should just focus exclusively on, whatever it is? Like, you're going to show up really, really big on TikTok and have an incredible TikTok account with 10,000 or 20,000 followers, and then not be completely invisible on Twitter, Pinterest, whatever the other ones that you've deemed are not as beneficial at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question, but that has to be a part of the strategy. So it has to be like, hey, my strategy is like, listen, like on Instagram, I don't have time for it, but I'm going to go ahead and claim my name. That way, if someone wants to tag me or whatever, I'm there. I've got my name. And yeah, and it varies by account, right? Like on Instagram, it probably really matters. On Pinterest, it probably doesn't, to like claim your account, but I've advised clients and I've helped clients with this. If you want to go ahead and like set up your account as if you're going to go all in, that can have some benefit for you to bring you some of that traffic. And we can go into this as well as to how and why, but it depends really on the platform. And that's where it comes in with your research about like, what is my goal here? What is my cost benefit in terms of time, and really making that decision of what you want to do. I mean, there is something to be said, as somebody who has had and currently having issues with like people claiming your name, your business name on different accounts. So it's definitely got to be a part of the conversation. For sure.
From a digital media perspective, and we just like barely started talking about this. It was before we got on. We should have just pressed record, right? Right in the beginning.
Sorry, everyone.
No, it's amazing. But we're getting into it. How much of marketing, because you said something I thought was very insightful. You said it's not so much about bringing the new business in, but it's about really making sure that you're appropriately developing the business that you're currently getting with your existing efforts. As someone who specializes in digital media, how are you thinking about that for your own business? Because you gotta have a public presence, you've got to do some marketing, but then how do you analyze the point which you're serving your clients well enough to really start devoting effort, intention, money, resources over to marketing?
Yeah. And it was a long road coming for me. And I'll tell you, because when I first started this business, I was like, everyone needs to know about the Garter Girl. And if they could just see my products, they would see that these are different. These wedding garters are different. This is not what you're thinking. These are not like, they're beautiful and they're special and they're heirlooms and and I was like, if they could just see them. Right. And so I was all wrapped up in years of trying to like convince people that if they could just like open their mind just for a little bit, just to consider. Right. And I was really going after like a very, fashion forward client. It was like very urban and kind of really like open to all these more like style types of things. I really kind of pitched them out as like style. right? And then maybe about 2 years ago, I kind of was like, you know what? I'm not even converting the people that are coming to me. I was getting all this traffic that was coming to my website, and I was not like, talk about buzzword. We talk about pivot, but we were like converting, right? Yeah. Converting is like all these people are coming to you, and are you converting them into a sale? Are you making the sale? And I was like, all these people, right, have come and said yes on some level. Right? Maybe not a yes to buy, but it's a yes that I'm interested in what you have, right? Or interested in the advice you're giving.
So they were seeing it.
Yes. And I'm not converting them. And so just the last like 2 years, I've really been obsessed with allowing the people that have said like a little yes to getting them to say like a big yes. And and for me, that's really looked at like not getting more traffic to my website, but instead like really understanding the traffic that was coming and really building out like my email marketing and really trying to dig in there and trying to really speak to the people that were already here. So I think sometimes we all get it, and it's easy because there's a lot of help and research out there. It's just bring in more traffic, just do more ads, do more blog posts, do more Instagrams, do more, bring in more. And then there comes a point where it's like, are we even reaching the ones that we're getting? And for my business, I felt like I was not.
So it's been a big shift for me.
So for someone listening to this right now who is saying, man, that's me, I have a planing business or I have a venue and I'm getting a decent amount of traffic. Maybe I'm already in a couple places. I already have an Instagram, a website. They're dealing with some of these same struggles that we've been talking about here. And now they're like, man, I need to do what you did 2 years ago. I need to start analyzing the traffic that's coming in and try to convert those people more, serve those people more. Where does that start practically?
Starts on a lot of different places, but it's really easy, like low hanging fruit. I mean, I started by putting it, how did you find us? And just asking the question multiple places. Like if you sign up for my email list now, it's not a ton of questions, but it's like name, email, how'd you find us? Every person that buys from me, like name, email, credit card information, how'd you find us? And I purposely like left it blank, right? I didn't do a drop down because I just wanted to hear what they say.
So it was a free form. So they would type in, not like they had to pre-select other. Yeah.
Yeah. And because I want to hear what they say. First of all, number one, I like to use their words. And so I wanted to hear what they say. And my favorite are the ones that are like, I found you on the internet. Like, that's about 0% helpful. Thank you. But that's what our clients, that's how they associate things. Right. And so that's good information for me. And so, a lot of people said, Google. Right. And so what did I do? I doubled down on Google ads. A lot of people said, a lot of people say Pinterest. So what have I done? Tripled down on Pinterest. Not one person says Instagram. I'm not saying it doesn't work. People do DM me, and I'm not giving up my Instagram for reasons we can discuss, but because I think it's like the grand total of your sort of all of your online presence. But for me, that no one ever says Instagram, it's where I can put it in my priority list.
That makes so much sense.
I have 30 minutes in a day.
And not one person this week said that they found me on Instagram. My effort is going into making sure my Pinterest is scheduled, my blog post is written or whatever. And then when the time's up, then I will invest in my Instagram.
How often do you think someone should be doing this analysis? Because you just said kind of you're looking at it by the week, but as someone looks at their business as a whole, and I think many business owners are going to start doing this in preparation for 2022.
Sure.
Looking at their their marketing stack, looking at maybe some of those questions that they are asking on the forums, which is, where are you getting this? And if people are saying Google, Instagram, wherever they're saying the business comes from, in what periods of time would you advise them to be looking at to kind of make some of those big shifts, and not make a big shift until they have enough data? Is this a weekly thing? Is this a daily thing? Is this a quarterly thing?
Well, so let me back up. So I added like a little thing on my website, and I think a lot of people do that. So it's not like I dropped this like knowledge bomb. But the other piece that I would say is like more into the analytics. And I'm definitely not like an analytics expert. I think you've had Christy from Mountainside Media on. She's definitely like more into the analytics, but things like you can track stuff. You can see where people come from. You can see where the traffic's coming from, and not for nothing. You can see like for Pinterest, I can see the specific pin that they're coming from. I can see, and then you can see like where they're going all throughout your website and where they're going afterwards. Like, it's just, so it's asking the question, right? Where do you find me? It's always interesting to see what their interpretation of that is. But at the same time, it's putting those tracking things on your website. And then, working with like a professional to get like the link tracking. And also like you can do link tracking like on your email. Like if you have like a newsletter or something, you can get link tracking on there to see like which buttons people are clicking on and things like that. So I kind of look at stuff pretty regularly. I don't look at my Google Analytics that often, more often than I should, because I'm checking it. Like when an order comes in and I go to print their shipping label, I can see it right then and there where they came from. So that kind of, it's just like a constant check-in for me.
And I think if you have
Staff and people that are like working for you and they're out networking, it's just like constantly asking that question, where, how'd you find us? How'd you find us?
How'd you hear about us? Getting that awareness.
How'd you hear about us?
And like, I'm always asking like friends and like, oh, like, how did that person find you? Or how'd you get that client or whatever? I would just find it interesting. I'm always like, I just find it really interesting, like people's paths
into your funnel, or even into other people's funnels.
Into other people's funnels.
Yeah.
It just fascinates me, and like, listen, a lot of wedding planners and photographers would be like, well, it was the sister of, one of the bridesmaids of the wedding that I did. And, so they can really afford to put a lot of time and effort in their in-person networking and referrals because that works for them.
I'm hearing us talk about marketing, but I can't help but think that there is some spillover into operations, because we're talking about doing a better job in converting the leads that you're getting, or, understanding the traffic that you're getting from one of these specific sites. It almost seems like some of the marketing dollars, some of the time, some of the attention that people spread themselves broad could be used to go more focused. And maybe that even means, to your point of hiring a professional, hiring somebody to help them in one specific category that they see repeatedly. Like if you keep seeing Pinterest or you keep seeing Google or whatever, instead of trying to also spend some time on Clubhouse, or Twitter, or, I've heard that TikTok is really blowing up right now. Instead, just taking some of that money, some of that time, and focusing it back on Google, but even bringing a person on board. How often are you seeing with the business owners that you talk to that they need to just hire somebody to help them in this one focused area versus doing it themselves?
A lot. I mean, well, here's the deal. I think I'm seeing like two separate things. I'm the kind of person who's like a DIYer. I want to figure it out. I want to understand it. Right. But I know that that's not everybody, especially in our world. Right. And, some people maybe aren't as comfortable with the DIY area and things like that. Like, for example, like photography, I'm a terrible photographer. A photographer comes in once a week, not an area I used to do it myself. It was awful. Right. But I think there's a difference between like delegation and abdication. Okay. And I see this a lot in the wedding industry, a lot. And the business owner right? They want to delegate, meaning they don't, but they end up abdicating. They abdicate because they don't want to deal with it. I don't know. I'm not a tech person. Fingers in my ears. La, 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 la. I don't know about this Pinterest you speak of. They just keep telling me every time I go out that I need the TikTok. But I'm going to stick my fingers in my ears because I'm not a tech person and I don't know. That's like abdication. The problem with that is like, you're the business owner. You need to set the tone. You need to set the brand. You need to understand. I'm not saying you need to be the one to be pushing the buttons on the Pinterest, right? But you need to understand enough to make sure that it's happening correctly. You're attracting the right kind of people that you want that are going to hire your services. Because with all this marketing now, we get to decide that, right? If you don't like the clients that you're getting, that's not on the clients or the platform, that's on you. It means you're not putting out the right message. And I think the problem with some of this abdication when it comes to marketing is it's really expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive to hire, an expert to do all the Instagrams for you. And you want to hire the like a true expert, you're talking about a lot of money, right? Thousands of dollars a month could be spent just on one platform easily. And then you want to add in stories and reels. And now there's like shopping and tagging and like TV and all the nonsense, right? And so that's just one platform and it can get exhausting and get really expensive. And oh, by the way, you still have like clients you need to deal with and, supply chain and all this stuff that's going on in the world and trying to have a life that it can, like, doing your marketing can be really exhausting. So to bring it all back, it's to answer your original question, there's this fine line between delegation and abdication. And you have to find that mix where it's like, I'm not doing everything, but my people are trained, or the person that I've hired is trained. I trust them. I have set the tone as the business owner. And I have decided to not just like, there's this expression that my friend uses all the time. It's like throwing good money after bad. Like if you invest all this money in Pinterest, but you don't know necessarily why you're doing it. You don't have a good plan. You don't have a good set of goals. You're just throwing good money after something that might be bad.
I think that's really well said. And I think from my own personal experience, I've seen this happen with vendors. I've seen this happen with planners and floral designers and DJs. Like, it's so easy to kind of have almost that entrepreneurial ADD without the focus, and entrepreneurial ADD specifically applied to the platforms or the different places. And it can come in a variety of different looks. It doesn't always have to be marketing. It could be going to networking meetings. It could be
conferences.
Exactly. And knowing if you don't go into, in fact, that was one of my big takeaways from Wedding MBA this year, was just like, there's so much information and thousands of people are pouring in and out of these rooms. And I feel like it would be so easy to just kind of at some point glaze over and just start to, miss really some of the gems instead of finding a specific thing that you're trying to walk away with and having that plan and that strategy. So Julie, that really, I feel like is at a macro level what I'm taking away from this, which is being intentional and being strategic about where you're spending your time and your money, and maybe saying no to the good so that you can say yes to the best. Is that?
Yeah. Love that. Well, it's what we was talking about earlier. Like, I know we were supposed to talk about marketing fatigue, but we've gone all around the bend.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what I was kind of said at the beginning. It's not a no, it's a no for right now. And for me, what that looks like is being very, very clear on my goals when I'm on a platform. What are my goals? And I'm really like, and this has really helped me like on Instagram, because when I get sucked into that rabbit hole, right, where you're like, oh my God, I'm not an influencer. I don't have 10,000 followers. I don't have the swipe up. I'm, or when I get sucked into the comparison game, I'm just like, whoa, what are your goals? And I always go back to my goals. What are my goals for being on this platform? And I have gotten crystal clear on my goals for being on Instagram. And when I get all worked up, I go back to them and I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then I feel instantly much better. I'm happy to share those with you. I was quick jotting them down. But like, for example, when I'm on Instagram, it's like for 3 reasons and 3 reasons only. And every one of my posts or everything that I do has to like check these boxes. Otherwise I'm not doing it. And number 1, like I am on Instagram straight up, like to show that I'm open for business. And for me, that looks like I post every single day. And I try to do the stories, even if it's just like I take my post, and because that way it looks like I'm open. The lights are on and I'm open.
Yeah.
And for me as an e-commerce product, it can be a little unsettling if I haven't posted in a month, in a week, in 6 months. It's like, am I going to get my product? So for me, it's every day. Number 2, I try to show that like I'm a human being. So I try to like show my face like every week or so, every other week, that like I'm a normal person behind, this business. Right. I love when people email and they're like, "Dear Garter Girl team." I'm like, it's me. And like, I do have other people that work for me, but like the one answering the emails is me. They're like, "Please share this with your marketing manager." I'm like, yeah.
You're like, I'll just put that hat on my head real quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Marketing manager now.
Share this with your buyer. I'm like, huh?
Okay. And then the third reason is to show my custom work, because really that's my clients that do say that they found me on Instagram, or they do like DM me or whatever. They love to like scroll and see examples of work. It makes them feel better. So I have those 3 clear goals. It's like the custom work, that I'm a human, and that the lights are on. Boom. So when I'm like trying to, get worked up about a caption or not getting enough likes, I'm like, I actually don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care about how many likes I get. I don't even look. I don't care, because my whole goal is like, I don't care about engagement. I don't care about any of that stuff, because my goal is like, if someone's on Instagram and they see that my lights are on, that's good enough for me.
I love that. And that's going to be so different for other people. Like other people could have a different strategy.
Totally.
The strategy could be different, but you're killing it.
Yeah. Like the other day, and I used to do a lot. I used to own a blog for weddings in DC. And so I would do and have done a ton of blog training and blog advice. And I see this a lot of times, especially in the wedding industry. It's like blog, it's all the same. And it's not. And same with like Instagram or any platform.
Well, and what do you mean?
Like, I'm not trying to be an Instagram influencer, right? I make money selling wedding garters, period. Now, someone who's an Instagram influencer has different goals when they're on Instagram, because they make money being on Instagram. So I'm not going to try to compare myself to them or try to do what they're doing. And I used to see this with the blogging, is like they would compare themselves to a professional blog that would blog as their only business. And I'm like, but you make money photographing weddings. Why are you trying to compare yourself to like a blog that tries to make money off their blog?
Right. Dive into that a little bit more, because you said blog, and I do see that a lot. I mean, I see that a lot, I think, in venues, because people know that you should write a blog, so then pretty much any topic is good. There's a variety of, and I'm saying that kind of facetiously. What do you mean by that? Someone who is a professional blog writer who's making money from their blogs, like making money from the advertisement revenue that's coming from the traffic?
Yeah. So I did have like a course at one point on this, and I've written, I don't know if it's been a while, but there's a big difference between blogging as a business and blogging for your business. Right. And same with on Instagram. There's a difference between being on Instagram as your business and being on, Instagram for your business. I'm on for my business. I make money selling my products. Right. Whereas somebody might make, like, if you are a big blog, right? Like, let's just go ahead and call The Knot a blog, if you will.
Yeah.
The Knot doesn't do or make anything. They make money through advertising and through people being in their vendor guide and things like that, but they don't go out and service clients every weekend. Like, you're a venue, you like host people, you make money on the catering and the food and all the things. So there's a big difference. And so when you're on and you're trying to make money off your blog, yeah, you need to blog 2 times a day. You need to be on all the socials. You need to be doing all the things. But like, if you're making money, if you're a venue and you make money by people booking out your venue, do you need to be blogging 5 times a day? Probably not. Maybe once a week. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like for you, but same with the Instagram. Maybe you have different Instagram goals. Maybe it doesn't look like every day for you, but maybe it doesn't look like twice a day, like some of the influencers.
Mm.
Did that answer your question? I feel like I didn't.
No, I think it did. And I think...
Or brought up like 5 more questions.
That one, exactly. No, I think what I'm really hearing is that strategy. It just keeps coming back to the strategy for me because...
Yes, and getting clear, crystal. My friends always joke with me. They're like, my favorite phrase is crystal clear. Be clear in your communication, be clear in like, and be clear why you're doing something. Crystal clear, like, why are you on here? Because time and money are limited. We do have limited budgets. There's only so many hours in a day. Why are you on Pinterest? Why are you investing? For me, I know why. It's because where my clients are. Mm-hmm. And I would argue, I would go toe to toe. Like most people that are getting married in the next year or two, I don't know if they're on TikTok, maybe, probably. I don't know if they're on Instagram, maybe, probably. But I know they're on Pinterest or will be at some point in their wedding planning process.
So, and that is a perfect segue to what I was going to ask you, which is...
Yeah, I did it again.
You did it again.
All together.
It's the, I'm going to say it's the working politics. You're just, you're bringing things around naturally.
Let's do it.
So when you think about Pinterest, when you think about all the places that you could appear online,
yeah,
what are some of the questions that you ask yourself? And I know you said it was, are your clients here? But there could be an argument made that, just like you were saying about TikTok or about, any one of these other platforms, LinkedIn. I mean, a lot of these people probably have jobs and they have LinkedIn profiles, and maybe they aren't looking for your services on LinkedIn, but there can be an awareness component. So how do you sharpen your strategy? Because we were talking about strategy. So I'm a planner. I'm in San Diego. I want to come up with this marketing mix that makes sense for my company, that is strategic. I want to do what you did. I love, I'm thinking, and I love the 3 points that you made, and I want to do something similar for my business. Yeah. What are some of those questions that I ask to kind of help myself prioritize where I'm going if I want to only pick 2 or 3 places? I mean, I've got, like I just shared with you, I've got a 5th baby on the way, so like, I'm this busy planner with almost 5 kids. Like, where do I start? What is kind of the question? Where are my clients? Yes. Okay. What are some of those other questions that I can ask?
I think the first question to ask is, what is the fundamental purpose of that platform? And not for me, but for the people that are on it. What is that platform trying to do, right? Instagram is entertainment. TikTok, entertainment. Google, it's search and discovery. Pinterest, search and discovery. YouTube, it's search, but it's also entertainment. It's kind of like both. And so like when you're standing in line at the grocery store, you're not opening up your Pinterest and like looking around, right? But you're like going on TikTok for 10 seconds when you're like sitting in the waiting room somewhere, right? Because nobody can wait anymore. You have to be doing something, right? Like you're going on Instagram to be entertained. It's social media. It's meant to be social, right? You're not necessarily going on Facebook to be entertained. You're going like you would on TikTok, right? You're going on Facebook to like connect with friends, see what people are up to, things like that, like to kind of more connect, right? And so, and the same with again, this is like totally different with Pinterest. It's more like you're going for solutions to your problems. And those problems could be like, what am I cooking for dinner tonight? How do I cook these chicken tacos? How long should I boil the rice? What does my wedding venue look at night? What are the best flowers in San Diego in the fall? Things like that. It's like you're going with that search intent in mind. You're not going to like be entertained. And so to answer your original question, it comes back to like, what's the fundamental like sort of purpose of the platform. And then that can kind of like help you decide where you like want to put your time and energy, right? And so like that's question one, right? It's like understanding the platform. And so
I think if we just like didn't talk about anything else, but just thought about those two things, like where are my clients, but then what is the purpose of the platform? I think people really gloss over that. I don't think people.
It's huge because like on Instagram, people are coming to Instagram to like get to know you. People always say to me like, oh, I want to see more like the girl behind Garter Girl, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, they want to get to know you. You're trying to build that know, like, and trust factor, right? They're trying to see the personality, the BTS behind the brand, right? Think about like celebrities that you follow. You're not necessarily going to like get a recipe. You're going to see like what that person looks like when just like on day to day and the kind of things they're interested in. It's more like showing your personality, right? The personality behind the brand. Now, when you're on Pinterest, you're going, the user pinner is like going to get answers to their questions. So for example, like what that looks like for me is like, I'll take a certain piece of content and post it on Instagram, right? To be like, to show that my lights are on, to show like my custom work, but then I'll post it on Pinterest and pitch it in a whole other way so that it like answers the question, right? And maybe I'll pitch it as like, easy gift idea or lace heirloom. I don't know. It's like you give something a bit of a different pitch based on where you are. Mm-hmm. But the original question is like, when you're trying to decide, it's like, where are my clients at, right? And then it's also on a deeper level, what's that platform's intent? So then I can know, am I up for putting that kind of content on? Am I up for putting on that entertaining kind of content? Am I up for putting on that helpful content? And I would argue that wedding professionals do really well on Pinterest because that's like in our nature. That's what we do. We help people, right? We answer their questions. We solve problems. And oh, by the way, it's all really pretty and visual. Mm-hmm. And what is Pinterest? It's a visual search and discovery platform. So that's why I gravitate towards Pinterest, is because like, it's like a no-brainer for people in the wedding industry because, oh, by the way, also all of our clients are there.
I love that. Well, this podcast has been surprising in so many great ways to me.
Are we done? I could go forever.
No, well, and we aren't totally done yet.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's like
we're just getting warmed up.
This is going to be one of those Joe Rogan 3-hour podcasts. We're just going to really dive into it. No, it's really cool because I think that this conversation has naturally taken the turn and had kind of the evolution behind it of not just digital marketing strategy, although that is what we're really talking about, but also just talking about how you fit this being marketing into real life. How are we practical? How are we pragmatic about our approach? And so that makes a lot of sense.
Listen, the FOMO is so real, right? You just mentioned like wedding MBA. I didn't even know what wedding MBA was like 2 weeks ago. And I'm watching all this stuff going on. Like, what is wedding MBA? I'm like, the FOMO was real. And I think when these platforms come up and are, your FOMO, should I be on Clubhouse? I don't know. Everyone's telling me it's like amazing. And everyone's doing courses on TikToks and how to do all the TikToks and the reels and like, you get this FOMO, and then you just have to step back and like, just be like, what also is real is marketing fatigue. I'm tired and I can't be everywhere. So let me get back to like, what are my goals? Right. And like, for example, I know I just bagged on it, but like, listen, there's a lot of people that are really successful on Clubhouse. And I just had to back up and be like, whoa, sounds cool, but not where I'm going to get business right now. Not like for me for right now. It's not a no, but it's a no for right now. And like, that helps me deal with the FOMO a lot better because I can just say, this doesn't fit with my goals right now. And like, yay for me for having goals.
Totally.
Like,
yeah. And I don't think that most people, like, even if you think that you have goals, I would pull out that goal sheet again. Like, to anyone who's listening on podcast or on, online, watching us on YouTube, really take a look. Like, do you have goals, or do you have some kind of general things that you wanted to get done that didn't quite make themselves into specific goals at the beginning of the year that you kind of been like loosely following? There's a huge difference, I think, between platform specific goals, just like you were talking about, Julie, where you're on Instagram for those 3 reasons, you're on Pinterest for these other reasons. Like, you have that clearly defined. And then when you start feeling those feelings inside, that FOMO, whatever it is, you kind of go back, look at the goals. Oh, and you can change the goals. I think we were talking about that. Like, change your mind, switch it up, but have something that you're switching to.
Like your reasons for doing it.
Yeah.
Like your reasons for, not because somebody told you that this was like a cool place to get Instagram followers, but because like those people are going to hire you and like that's worth it to you. And it's yes. But I wanted to give people like an out, because marketing fatigue, it's so real. And people, I was telling you before we started, is like, people look at me, and because I do so much Pinterest, they have this look on their face. Like, I know I need to be doing Pinterest, but I'm like the worst. And I just haven't gotten to it. And I can't. And it's just like a bunch of recipes and I don't know. And I'm just like, well, let's talk about it. What are your goals? Do you feel like you're not getting business? Do you feel like, no? They're like, no, I'm busier than anything. I'm like, okay, then let's put a pin in that. Because if you're busy and you are all booked up and you just can't handle it, and you like, can we just put a pin in it until you have a minute to breathe? And that's, I mean, I know it's not good for my business to keep telling people, oh no, don't worry, don't get on Pinterest. But it's like, I'm being honest. Like, if you have all the business in the world, then good on you.
Mm-hmm. Something else that this speaks to is people defining what success looks like for themselves. Because at the end of the day, someone who is all booked up, like maybe they're all personally booked up, and to add on Pinterest or to add on TikTok or to add on Clubhouse, not only is it adding a thing to do, but then it's adding the actions that will come from opportunities that are developed by those platforms. And it's like, do you want that? And like, how does that change your business? And there's a fundamental change that I've seen in businesses, from someone being an owner operator to someone going to having a small team to someone going to have a big team. Mm-hmm. The transition is you end up managing people and growing talent rather than being a practitioner of your own skill.
When I had the blog, I had like 6 people working for me, and I'm like, how did I get from being this blogger to like all of a sudden this manager? And everyone was like young and like 22. And I was like, oh my God, I am a mom. At the time I had 2 kids, and I was like, plus now I have 8 kids. It's like, yes, to your point. I just would encourage everybody to really get crystal clear on your goals for every platform. And then to just like, it's hard to shut out the noise, but honestly, like, it's hard when everyone's sitting around and they're doing those cute TikToks and they're like telling you that it's so great and it's so great, but just keep telling yourself that's so great for them. And I'm so happy for you. But for me and my business, here's what's going to move the needle for me. Here's what's going to like help me the most. And it might, and it does. It looks so different for everybody.
Julie, I think that we're definitely going to have you back on the podcast to talk about some more things. Maybe, I think Pinterest specifically deserves some time. But I think this has been really, really good, because you absolutely have given people an out for this. We're coming off of a super busy season. We're going into engagement season. There's so much going on in this world. And at the same time, the goals and being clear gives people a really good understanding of where they should be focusing their time and attention. And so if you are listening to this and you don't feel like you do have those clear goals, go back, just like Julie's saying, focus on what is your Instagram strategy? Why are you on that platform? Do you know, or is it just to kind of like keep up with the Joneses, just keep up with what you heard on the blog that you read, or that speaker at Wedding MBA, or that, TikTok that you were scrolling through that heard that you should be posting 6 times a day on, whatever.
But and two, it's like, that's what works for them, right? Yeah. Maybe they like have a dance background and they can or video background and they can just knock those TikToks out and they're like, it's easy for them. But if that's like not your thing, I'm just here to tell you, like, it's okay. I see you and your business is going to be okay if you're not all the places doing all the things.
Very cool. Well, everyone, if you want to be let off the hook more, you can contact Julie for that, or you can get in deeper with her for all these incredible different topics. Where should people go to find you, Julie? Are you dancing on TikTok? Are you providing information on Instagram?
I did that whole like paranoia, like, oh my God, I got to claim my name on TikTok. But I think was on for about 4 seconds. So no, you can go to my website and I have one for my personal, which is juliannesmith.com, or my business is gartergirl.com. So yeah, that where you can find me on whatever social media I tend to be doing at the moment, but where I try to keep it all is on either one of my websites.
I love it. Very cool. Well, Julie, thank you so much for being on today on the Venue RX. And we will have the links to where people can find you in the show notes, both on podcast and on YouTube. And everyone, thanks for joining us today. And Julie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.